30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Welcome into the George Plaster Show on a Wednesday here in Nashville, broadcasting live from the beautiful Ford Ice Center out in Bellevue. A little rainy today. We'll see if it rained out in Murfreesboro. Get a little weather report from Kelly Holcomb. I'm not as in-depth as George on his daily weather reports, but I know it was raining a little bit today. It's cleaned up a little bit, so not too bad today, but hopefully it cleans up a whole lot down the stretcher this week. Of course, I got a lot to get to. We'll talk a little SEC football with Braden Gall. He's the owner of 440 Sports and the host on ESPN Radio, Athlon Sports as well. SEC football 2024 schedule release is tonight on the SEC Network, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Dive into Tennessee, of course, maybe a little bit of Alabama, maybe a little Vandy as well. We'll preview the College World Series and Kelly's World of Football, another edition. This is back-to-back, not back-to-back days, but we did it Monday. Now we're doing it today. Kelly, we've got World of Football today, and hopefully we've got a good day in Murfreesboro today. Did it rain at all out there today?
It did rain. It's overcast. The sun hasn't shone at all today.
Yeah, not a whole lot of sun today either in the mid-state.
Yeah, no, it's it just got finished. We had a little downpour, but it didn't last very long. It kind of wet everything, so it's good. I feel like Al Archer of the local forecast right now. I'm on yours and George's, your wavelength with this. Like, yeah. You know, I don't know. I don't understand the weather forecast on the show here, but hey, it's not my doing.
George gives one whether it's, I mean, we could have a week full of sunny days. He's still giving a weather report with the temperature. I guess he's checking his phone before the show every day, but
I have no idea.
But he would be complimenting your haircut right now. I know that's what he would be doing right now. He would notice.
Yeah,
that.
Well, the you know, I told you and David off air that she couldn't cut out the gray, so that kind of bummed me out a little bit. But it's too much. I've given up now. I tried to use color a long time ago. Really funny because Joe Theismann thought it was real funny too, because at the end of my career, had a Sunday night game, and you know, I was graying. I was starting to gray, so he hit me. He gave me some Just for Men, and you know, he sent it to my house. He thought that was funny, and I didn't try Just for Men, but I tried something, and my hair just laughed at it. It still, you know, the gray still showed through. So nothing I can do.
I don't think I would trust that stuff either.
I didn't use that. I did not use that, what Joe gave me. Absolutely not.
You know, it's something George has that you don't, or, you know, George has no gray hair. So
he has none. I mean, you know, I hate to give it to him. I mean, the guy's 63 years old. He does not look that way. I mean, obviously with the heritage that he's got being Greek, his mom and dad lived long lives, and he's looking good, but I don't understand it because he does nothing the right way.
Awful eating habits, just terrible eating habits. For George.
Awful.
The best was, why don't you do something other than put a fork to your face? That was brutal. David, I feel like you have pretty decent genes too.
I'm losing the hair on the top of my head.
Yeah,
it's missing.
We're both losing hair. We're even with Kelly on the
Kelly's got more hair on the top of his head than I do, probably. So
yeah, I've got a head full of hair. I'm good with that. I mean, it's starting to recede a little bit. I don't really dig that, but you know, I've still got a full head of hair. It's just all gray, and it's shortly becoming white, I'm afraid.
still going strong though, so you're good.
Yes.
But David, what do we start with? We got Golden Knights.
I guess we're going to the NHL. Okay. The Golden Knights walloped the Panthers last night, 9-3. Big night for Mark Stone, who's the captain for Vegas. Got the hat trick last night in their series clinching win. The first hat trick in the finals since 1996.
Wow.
So Vegas wins their first Stanley Cup title, and only the franchise's 6th year in existence. It's the second title for the city of Las Vegas over the last calendar year. Got to remember the Las Vegas Lady Aces getting it done with Becky Hammond as their head coach.
And I think we'll get into this maybe a little bit later, but I mean, to win a Stanley Cup within 6 years of your existence as a franchise, Kelly, is pretty impressive. There's not many franchises that have done that. I saw a graphic on Twitter. I'm going to try to bring it up a little bit later in the show. But I mean, that's not easy. I know the cards were not stacked against them. They had some advantages there with how they do, the expansion franchises in the NHL now, how that process works. But I mean, you got to give it to them, Kelly. 6 years, they already got a Stanley Cup just like that. So.
I was watching something on SportsCenter this morning. They were talking about they're only one of a few teams that have been able to do that their first 7 years of their existence. So, and some of of course, I can't pronounce all the names. They got a young guy, the Smith guy that they just talked about that had that had the hat trick last night, and then the guy that won the Conn Smythe Trophy,
Marchessault.
Yeah, I mean, those guys were there when they started, and they've kind of built that thing. And they got a young guy. What's his name?
It's absurd that they got Jack Eichel, who's a great
Eichel. That's
player.
it. Eichel's the guy. Yeah, he's a young guy and he's really good. So they obviously they sped that up. They fast tracked their way to a Stanley Cup, and they got some really good players, and they got some guys that have been there for a while, and they've got some guys that they could keep going with that. And what better place? I was thinking when I was watching that too, like what better place if you're a free agent. Like they've got such an advantage. Like, why would you not want to live in Vegas? And especially if the Oakland A's goes there. I mean, you've got the Raiders now, and if the A's go there, you've got the Vegas Knights, you've got the WNBA team. Like, I mean, you would probably take less money to be in Vegas because you're there all the time. I mean, it's like it's the city that never sleeps. It's just crazy.
Marchessault came from the Florida Panthers, so I think there was some Panther fans obviously not happy about that. He ends up dominating in this series. And David, I don't know if you know, there was another player on Vegas that came from Florida. So there were two guys, I forget his name right now, but there were two guys that came over to Vegas from Florida. There's a lot of infighting, I think, with the Panther fans there. But congrats to Vegas. I mean, 6 years, that's all it took for them.
Yeah, they were competitive from the jump. They took advantage of that.
First year.
Yeah, first year they went to the finals, Greg. That was the year that the Predators won the President's Trophy, but had to play Winnipeg in the second round. I know a lot of Predators fans still hate the way that the NHL has drafted out their playoffs, that wore each other down. So,
and there's a lot of NHL people not happy about the expansion process of attaining players.
A lot of Predators fans are saying, Vegas and Seattle had advantages that the Predators did not have.
The Predators, 99?
Yeah.
They had, I mean, it took them a long time.
You could protect more players back in the day than you did now.
Yeah.
So, like James Neal went from the Predators to the Vegas. Scored 30 goals the next year.
Yeah.
So,
it is what it is. I mean, you still got to go out there and win it. Yeah, I mean, it takes – we talked about how long the NHL playoffs are. Still takes a lot to go out there and get it done and win it.
Yeah, but some of those unprotected players that they got have turned out to be something else. They're really, really good.
Yeah. And, they've drafted well. So congrats to Vegas. They are the Stanley Cup champs.
Yeah, Billy, we're moving on to the SEC. You mentioned it tonight. The full 2024 schedule will be released at 7 p.m. Eastern time on the SEC network. We've got some leaks of the schedule, and it's making my mouth salivate for some of these matchups. Georgia versus Alabama in T-Town out in Tuscaloosa. Just the fifth meeting in the regular season over the last 20 years between those two schools. We got Texas versus Texas A&M, an old rivalry from the Big 12. First meeting since 2011 between those two. Georgia's going to take the trip also to Texas, out to Austin to play Steve Sarkisian's group. Will we see Arch Manning at quarterback by then? And Alabama going on the road to face Boomer Sooner out there in Norman, Oklahoma. All 14 schools in the SEC will either play Texas or Oklahoma in 24.
Yeah, and obviously there's pros and cons to this, right, Kelly? And this also goes in with the 8-game conference schedule. Obviously, we've talked about it a lot, and we're going to have Braden Gall on here in about 10 minutes or so to kind of dive into some of the matchups he likes. But, Kelly, David talked about some of those matchups. The SEC is not slowing down. I mean, you look at some of those matchups here in a couple of years. Whew, I mean, buckle up. It's like it's going to be every week. There's no breaks right now, but man, there's really going to be no breaks with Texas and OU coming in.
Yeah, just think if they add some more teams. Like I don't think anything. We talked about that last week about the ACC. Yeah, it's too much money to get out of the ACC, but like Just think if the SEC stepped up and paid something like that to get like a team or two out of the it's crazy and everybody wants to come to the SEC. And I never understood the Missouri deal because I don't feel like Missouri. I still have trouble with Missouri being the SEC, but it is what it is. But man, Oklahoma and Texas, that makes so much sense. And those are two powerhouse schools. It's going to help those guys recruiting, and you're absolutely right. There's going to be no downtime. Now, Vanderbilt's going to get better. I don't know if you can. We'll see. I've talked in length that I really like Clark Lee and what they're doing down there. You would like to see him get to where James Franklin had that organization down there. But you're right. The SEC is only getting better.
Yeah, and you got two huge, massive, passionate fan bases too. These aren't just a couple of slouch fan bases. Texas and OU,
historic programs.
Historic programs. And Texas, Kelly, you talk about Vanderbilt needing to sort of buckle up tight and get their act together. Texas too, there's some pressure on them. That first year in the SEC. So same with OU, but Texas is Texas. Right, Texas has the bright lights. They typically don't perform well in the bright lights, so they're going to have to buckle up tight too because Sarkisian might be in a little bit of trouble early on if they don't. So there's a lot
of pressure, and there's a lot of pressure in OU too because they did not live up to the standard that they had set years before last year. They weren't very good. So they're going to have to step their game up too. You're totally right about Texas. Oklahoma's got to step their game up, man.
Yeah. Venables after a tough year. Hey, let's go to the SEC. It'll get easier. This is okay. Let's go to the SEC.
Moving on, Billy. We mentioned this yesterday in the update. Stefan Diggs not reporting to the first day of mandatory mini camp. Excuse me. He did show up today.
He's back.
He is participating in minicamp today. After Sean McDermott
was he there?
He was not there yesterday.
He was not there,
but he is there today. Sean McDermott said he was very concerned about him not showing up. Diggs is there today, and
Diggs is there.
I guess him and Josh Allen have some soul searching to do about the end of the year last year, not getting the many targets as he wanted in the playoff.
Buffalo fans can rest easy, Kelly.
Yeah, I mean it's what we talk about all the time. There's not much football news going on this time of year, so he tried to get some news out there. He was very concerned, and then he's there today. So
you got to players play to the media. So all the time, right?
Oh, absolutely, they do.
And they're getting paid
they're getting paid so much money now that it's hard. Like it's hard for a coach to say something to like a Stefan Diggs. Like he's making so much money. Like if he don't want to go, like you can't. The salary cap ramifications that some of these guys have, like you can't just get rid of him. So he knows that he's got leverage. So if he don't want to show up, he's not going to show up.
Yeah, look at Tom Brady last year. We didn't even think he was going to end up playing. He walks right in. He's good. So
that's the whole thing. Like I absolutely hated training camp towards the latter part of my career. I did not want to go. So Brett Favre was taken off. Tom Brady was taken. Like if you can miss training camp and come in and play, then every guy is going to try to miss training camp. And nowadays it's so easy. Like when I first started with the Indianapolis Colts, we were at a university, and I forget the university's name, but we stayed there for 5 weeks. Now they don't even stay there. I think it's like 2 weeks, and I don't even know. Is it 2 weeks with a collective bargaining agreement?
I think it is. It's definitely not 5.
Yeah, but they can only have one practice a day, and if you have another practice, it's got to be a special teams practice with no pads.
Yeah. It's a little bit different nowadays.
Different
in the training camp world. You get to your 6th or 7th year, it's like, okay, I don't know if this is really worth it.
I'm done. Like, but when I played, we had to practice. It was 2-a-days. It was practice, and then in the middle sometimes you got off. But they had a special teams practice. But like you would have a practice in the morning, you would have a practice in the evening. Sometimes you would have a special teams practice in the middle. But like. It's all day, but now it's just it's so soft.
Well, we'll talk more NFL coming up with Kelly's World of Football. We got an interesting topic. We'll reveal that at the top of the hour. David, what we got next?
We got some NBA news. Obviously, Denver coming off their championship just 2 days ago, their first finals victory and appearance in franchise history. The Wizards and Bradley Beal are in their news. He just completed the first year of a 5-year, $251 million contract. They are looking for a trade partner to potentially trade Bradley Beal to a contender. Averaged 23.2 points per game last year, shot 51% from the field, only played in 50 games with an injury. But it's interesting to note, he's one of the few players in the league that has a no trade clause. So he'll be able to pick the contender he gets traded to. He's a dynamic player, can score that basketball. So I know a lot of teams will be looking for his services. Maybe Miami looking for another piece to add. So we'll see what happens.
So say 5 teams are interested in him and they offer a trade, he can pick.
He can pick, and he can help kind of dictate the package that each team gives back in return for him.
That's a little bit different.
Hey, talking about the NBA, have you guys watched the 30 for 30 with Bill Walton?
No,
the luckiest guy in the world?
I haven't yet.
Hey, it's really good. And you would have seen Chocolate Thunder on there, Daryl Dawkins. They were talking about it last night. I was hoping y'all were watching that. I was going to text you, Billy, and say, cut it on ESPN. They're talking about the Sixers when the Sixers and the Portland Trailblazers played with Bill Walton, and it was Chocolate Thunder, and he got in a fight.
I'm gonna go watch that.
It's really good, man. It's really good. It's really sad what happened to Bill Walton, man. He was a really good player, and when he went to Boston, like, those guys couldn't say enough about him, but they made fun of him all the time. It's just like a locker room. That's why I say nowadays I wish everybody played or had to be in a locker room, played a sport, because our country would be far different. We wouldn't be offended about everything. Just hey, you get made fun of. Just grow up.
Shrug it off. Grow up.
Yeah, shrug it up. Grow up.
David, what else?
Last piece of news, and this piece of news will probably get George riled up, ready for more expansion talk with Dan Evans. The Nevada Senate passed a bill yesterday, $380 million deal to help fund the new stadium in Las Vegas for the A's when they come to Vegas.
So it's official.
It's pretty much in the works. It's going to happen. So it's going to rile George up a little bit and ask Dan about more expansion in Nashville.
You think he's going to ask about it this week, Kelly?
We've been on this subject for 3 months now. This is my 3rd month, and it's like
the same question every week too.
It's unbelievable. Like, let's move on. Let's turn the page and do something else.
Grow up.
Grow up.
You're lucky. You're lucky you're not on the show Friday, Kelly, and you're taking the day off and the weekend off. Because Mike Soroka is pitching for the Gwinnett Stripers here in Nashville. So we're going to First Horizon Park and doing a live remote.
I feel like I'm personal friends with Mike Soroka, and I don't even know who he is.
I saw him in the dugout last night. I mentioned Plaster's name, and he just shook his head.
The funniest part about George, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he's a big Rick Sweet guy. Loves Sweetie, head coach of the Sounds.
Yeah.
After the show that we did, the last show we did at First Horizon, David and I are wrapping up, kind of, fixing the equipment. We look down in the field, and George is just, chopping it up with Rick Sweet in front of their dugout. And we're like, we blink and he's down there. How the heck did he get all the way down there?
I've never seen him move so fast in my life. But, when he's at the diamond, he's a different man.
You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. But that's it for the update. Coming up, Braden Gall. We're talking about SEC football, specifically tonight's 2024 schedule release. What matchups is Braden most excited to watch? We'll dive into that with Texas and OU coming to the Southeastern Conference. We got that and much more coming up here on the George Plaster Show from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Lanes. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is fun. It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over.
Welcome back in. It's time to talk a little SEC football with Braden Gall. He is SEC football guru. He's been covering the SEC for a long time. He is now the owner of 440 Sports podcast network here in Nashville. Also a host on ESPN Radio. Does some work with Athlon Sports as well. He's a Swiss Army knife here in Nashville. Not just college football, but covers everything. But I think that's his bread and butter. I think he would agree. Braden, thanks for coming on, man. It's been a while. How you doing?
I'm great. Good to see you guys. And yes, college football is the greatest sport on the planet. There is no question.
I mean, there's nothing else.
It is good.
Yeah. Braden, let's get into it. Tonight, of course, 2024 schedule release. Every SEC team will have Texas or Oklahoma on their 2024 schedule. Obviously, there's pros and cons to that. There will probably be some politicking involved, I would guess. What are you most excited to see tonight and find out tonight as a person that covers SEC football? Obviously, there's some leaks out there. We probably know some matchups, whether they're true or not. But what are you most excited to see heading into tonight?
Well, I would love to see a camera on all the coaches' faces across the league when they get to see their own schedule like unfolded. And we're not going to get to see this very often in terms of the SEC. Maybe when they go to 9 games, we'll see another one of these. But Texas A&M. I moved to Nashville in 1996 from Austin. Texas and Texas A&M is like a part of your blood. It's such a huge deal. So I think the Aggies and the Longhorns getting back together again next year 1 in College Station is an absolute must. Frankly, that rivalry should be protected no matter what. So that's a huge one. The leaks, as you mentioned, Georgia is going to go to Austin. You're going to have Bama at Oklahoma. Every team in the league is going to play either Texas or Oklahoma. So that's really fun. And for Tennessee, for example, there's like some history recently with Oklahoma. Who's the real UT? That's going to be sort of, bragging rights every single time Tennessee and Texas get together. So seeing what Tennessee's schedule is like is going to be interesting. But just seeing Texas and Oklahoma integrated into the SEC schedule it's going to be a ton of fun. And the matchups are going to be outstanding. I mean, Texas is surging. They have the right trajectory right now. Oklahoma, not as positive about their trajectory, but still very good. So who handles the SEC schedule the best is going to be fascinating to watch. And not just that, but a whole bunch of other games as well we get to find out tonight. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. It kind of gets you back into the football season flavor a little bit. I want to ask you more about Texas and Oklahoma. Right, we were just talking about kind of comparing the two. Who is better suited right now to enter into the SEC with some momentum? And naturally, I say Texas, right? They had a better season last year. They feel, if you're a Texas fan, you probably feel a little bit better than an OU fan. But then again, Oklahoma, obviously they had a tough year. I like Venables. Are they as far apart? Like, is Texas as further ahead of Oklahoma as a lot of people think they are in your mind, Braden?
I think we'll have to watch this year to learn, honestly. Like, I think just based on paper, Texas is the best at everything in the Big 12. Literally, the best quarterback room, the best running back room, the best offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, secondary. They're number one in our magazine at Athlon Sports in every category in the Big 12. That includes Oklahoma. They are the preseason presumptive favorite to win the conference. You're going to have either Quinn Ewers back off a great year next year or Arch Manning stepping into the starting role at quarterback. Your coach is far more established than Steve Sarkisian and well-respected in terms of he's one of the top 2, 3, 4 offensive minds in all of college football. So I think right now, surprisingly, the answer is definitely Texas. But Oklahoma historically has been the far more stable and more successful and more productive program. Is Brent Venables the answer there? We had a couple of quotes from coaches anonymously, of course, in the Big 12, saying two very interesting things about these two programs. One about Oklahoma is this is the worst roster that they have seen defensively in over a decade. That's a major concern because Brent Venables ran a bunch of really great stuff at Clemson, but it's because he had better players than almost everybody in the ACC. That doesn't seem to be the case on paper right now at Oklahoma. The other side of the coin is the analysis of Texas from opposing coaches. They used an interesting phrase that this current coaching staff for Texas has removed the Texas entitlement from the roster, which is a really big part of why they've struggled to sort of maintain dominance. Is there's too many cooks in the kitchen. The whole deal at Texas is that it's dysfunctional because of all the cooks in the kitchen, much like Tennessee or Auburn, for example. But if that's been eliminated, Texas will win the Big 12 this year because they're the best team on paper with possibly the best coach. And if that happens, then it's very clear that they are best situated to join the SEC because they could be very, very good in 2024. But we have to see it. I need to see it with Texas before I start automatically assuming things. That's dangerous when it comes to the Longhorns.
Yeah, sure is. And it's interesting. Both of them will be entering into the SEC with an 8-game conference schedule, right? And I think that's a little bit more manageable than a 9-game. I know it's just one game, but I think for Texas and Oklahoma for a few years, right, until they go up to 9 games eventually, we know that's happening. The 8 versus 9. Were you on a side? Does it matter to you? To me, I
yes.
don't think it matters. To me, I wasn't as big of a proponent of the 9-game schedule as a lot of other people. Now I'm in Nashville. I obviously favor Vanderbilt. That's probably part of it. But for Nick Saban on the other side, it feels like he also favors an 8-game. But I think Tennessee is involved in that, right? The rise of Josh Heupel in Tennessee. So where did you stand on the 8 versus 9 argument here, Braden?
9 all the way, and every one of these coaches is self-serving. Kentucky, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, sort of the tip of the spear for the 8-game schedule. Why? Well, they want an extra home game to make more money in their process there, hosting games. Certainly, bowl eligibility is a factor for Mississippi State. Ironically, Missouri was a big proponent of 9, which is sort of against their best interest. Clark Lee, I agree, Vanderbilt would want 8 in theory to have an easier path to bowl eligibility. But Clark Lee has been very open and said, I'll just do whatever, man. I'm good with whatever. 9 is better football. Like, if you want more good football, you want 9. If you want more good rivalries, you want 9. If you want to make more money from your television partners, you want 9. 9 is the answer. Texas and Oklahoma have been playing 9 conference games for a decade in the Big 12. Is it the same as the SEC? Of course it's not. But they've been playing 9 conference games for a long time. The Pac-12 has been doing it for 15 years. So I think 9 is going to be where we go for all the right reasons. And I think some people have some of these coaches have raised interesting points. Hugh Freeze said basically, will the committee put 3 lost teams into the tournament and into the playoff? And the only reason Nick Saban, who has long been a 10-game conference schedule proponent and then a 9-game, all of a sudden he switches to 8. Well, why? Because Alabama had the toughest permanent 3 teams with Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU permanently on their schedule every year. That's extremely self-serving for Nick Saban to just switch because he's politicking to try to get a better schedule. So it's very transparent, in my opinion. 9 games, the value of 9 games for the fans, for season ticket holders, for television partners, just for regular old Saturdays to be better more often is 9. It's 9 games. It's obvious that's where we're going to go. It also creates some form of unity across the country where we have 9 in every conference. Whether or not they're created equal is obviously a decision for the committee to work through. I think they will. And an interesting case study is with what Kirby Smart said in Destin, which is it better to not make the SEC championship game then? And last year, with no divisions, number 1 would have been Georgia, number 2 would have been Tennessee, and number 3 would have been Alabama in order of finish. Well, 10-2 Alabama, without having to play Georgia in the SEC championship game, clearly gets into the playoff. But Tennessee at 10-2, if they lose to Georgia a second time and get blown out, let's say like they did the first time, does 10-3 Tennessee make the playoff? That's an interesting debate because Tennessee had to play that extra game. I think the committee is smart enough to not knock teams that have to play the extra tough game. You also get the extra bye week if you were Alabama last year, and not having to play in Atlanta would give you a bye going into the college football playoff. So there's a lot of like weird idiosyncrasies we have to work out from a scheduling model standpoint with the new playoff and the new conferences across the country. It's going to take a couple of years. It's why I think they punted and said, look, we've got a built-in excuse here to say we've got 2 years before the real playoff starts in 2026. Let's do some trial balloon stuff here in 2024 and 2025. Let's try an 8-game. Maybe they try a 9-game. We'll see what the committee does. Then they feel more comfortable maybe moving forward. But it's going to go to 9. Money and fun. That's why you go to 9. It's more fun and there's more money, and that's all you really need to know.
That's all that matters. Braden Gall from 440 Sports joining us here on the Plaster Show. Kelly, a lot of meat on the bone, as George would say there. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you, big man.
Well, what I was thinking right there when y'all were talking about that is, Coach Donnelly, me being an MTSU guy, Coach Donnelly used to always tell me that he thought that there would be 5 power conferences at some point. Do you think that's where that's headed? Because we've got the NIL now, we got the transfer portal, everything's going. And do you think that these Power 5 conferences could split from the NCAA at some point, and it just like it would be an NFL schedule where, we're talking about 8-9 games now, but if it goes to something like that, do you think that every game could be a big game for these big schools?
Yeah, I think the answer is one conference. Honestly, it's a new division. Frankly, is maybe a better way to put it.
Right.
And the question is going to be who's above the line and how many teams are above the line. Is that 40 or is it like 60? And I don't think anybody knows. We're all kind of guessing on what that could look like. That the problem there for a lot of SEC fans is that does not include every SEC brand. And if we're gonna create a new sport where the most powerful and the most successful financial programs are the ones that we're coalescing around power and brands, not geography and rivalries and all this other stuff. If we're coalescing around brands, I mean, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State need to be concerned about this. Kentucky needs to be concerned about this.
Right.
Indiana and Rutgers aren't guaranteed to get spots. Maybe Indiana does because of basketball, but basketball, nobody really cares when they make these decisions about basketball. So I think there's a 40-ish to 60-ish group of teams that's going to come because of NIL money, because of the finances of it all. The TV money is going to be so big that eventually when all these TV contracts run out in about the same, it's shocking how that works. They all run out about 2031, 2032. And when that happens, I would be, we've got about a decade here of the new college football. And then I think we're going to have another version of college football in the mid 2030s. And, I think that's going to be based around the 40 or 50 biggest brands in college football. And who does that include? Nobody really knows right now.
And then what does a team like my alma mater do, like a Middle Tennessee or a Marshall or a Troy? Where do they go from there? I mean, I just, the futures, we don't know what happens in the future.
Yeah.
We're speculating right here, but I've always heard that. I've always thought that, and the way that things are going now with the money, with everything's about money. So what do these lower tiered, group of 5 teams do?
I don't see, I've always said this for 20 years. I've said this. There's no reason in a multi-billion-dollar contract from a TV partner or 4 TV partners that you can't earmark some of that money to help the lower tier programs. And that's that's everything. That's FCS, that's Division III, that's Division II, that's Group of 5, you name it. I do think there's a market for, like, fans love, I think a Group of 5 tournament would be extremely successful television wise, because we've seen these leagues, Conference USA in particular, their television contracts just don't hold up. And the MAC has tried doing things on Wednesdays, with MACtion. I mean, the Pac-12 right now is realizing how their TV contract isn't worth as much as people thought it was. So I think there's value, but you have to sort of counter program, right? Like you gotta really lean into being non-traditional. You got to lean into being on Wednesdays and Friday nights. You got to lean into your own tournament, your own brand. And I think there's some smart people running these conferences at that level. It's still a really fun product. People love Group of 5 football, so we've got to figure out a way to sort of maximize it. And then, can the big dog, whatever that big dog looks like in 10 years, can there be just a little bit of can there just be a little bit of trickle down? Because trickle down, as we've learned, just doesn't work in reality. It's not.
We don't need much. Yeah. We don't need much. Just give us a little. Okay. So since you're the SEC guru, okay. So going in here this upcoming season, it seems like, since I was a quarterback, so it seems like there's so many question marks at quarterback. You've got Bryce Young leaving, the number 1 pick. You've got Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. You got Will Levis. They don't know what they're going to do in Florida. They've got a guy from Wisconsin, that the Mertz kid, I guess, in Florida. So have you ever seen as many question marks? You go to Alabama, they don't know who I'm sure they probably know now, but I don't know. There's still so many question marks as quarterbacks. Have you ever seen this in the SEC?
I'm sure there's been a couple years. I think really the commentary is more about how truly great last year was. You got to go back to 2013, where it's Dak Prescott and Johnny Manziel and Aaron Murray, and I think Zach Mettenberger was playing at that time. 2013 was a really good year for quarterback play. So I think it's more about that last year. How many times do you have a Heisman Trophy winner, 2 other Heisman Trophy finalists, a 2-time defending national champion, and Will Levis? That's by the way, Will Rogers is a guy who's coming back who is going to own every single passing record in SEC history. So
correct.
You just had a collection of 7-8 guys last year that were it's unprecedented how good they were, I think, in general. And so I think it's more this is just a return to normalcy. You still have KJ Jefferson, very good. Jaden Daniels at LSU, very good. Devin Leary at Kentucky is going to be really, really good. There's still a lot of Will Rogers, as I mentioned, still very, very good. I think there are a collection of breakout candidates, and that's where we just don't know who's going to be who yet. Right. Connor Wigman at A&M, I think, is going to be very good with Bobby Petrino, certainly in 1 year, as long as that coaching staff doesn't commit crimes against each other. And then Joe Milton, Spencer Rattler. None of these guys have ever actually broken out and had a great season. Spencer Rattler had a couple great games, but he's never had a great season. Joe Milton's never even started a whole season. Carson Beck at Georgia has the best surrounding cast and best situation. So there's a lot of unknowns, but there's also a lot of talent, a lot of upside. There's 4 or 5 guys at the top that are pretty established. So I think it's we're just back to normal in the SEC.
Yeah.
Whereas last year, I think, was just an extraordinary year that sort of is just abnormal. And the SEC is healthier than it's ever been. I've never seen a middle class in this conference that is as strong as the SEC is today. I mean, think about this. All 14 fan bases have a reason to be excited and happy right now in July, and that should be terrifying to all the head coaches. We've never had this much happiness in the SEC in the summertime, and everyone's kind of excited, and that is unprecedented in the SEC, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So you brought up Mississippi State, and I just thought about this. Okay, so they got a new coach. They had such a tragedy with Mike Leach. How different will they look, and how long do we think that it'll take them to get over that? Will it be a year? Will it be several years? Because that was such a bad thing. And I know that Zach Arnett was a defensive coordinator, and I know sometimes defensive coordinators don't like all that throwing the ball. I'm sure it's going to look different. I'm sure he's going to try, because he understands being on that side of the ball when you go out there for a series and you've just had a big series on defense and you throw 3 incompletions and you take 13 seconds off the clock. So how different will that look, and how long will it take them to get over the Mike Leach effect?
So I say this with all love and respect. I worked with Mike Leach for a year in the media, and he's one of my favorite human beings that I've ever worked with. But God rest his soul, would not evolve just because he just refused to do it on his own. He was like, I'm going to be stubborn. And I think part of the reason he never got a big time job, like an elite blue blood job, is because he refused to do it any different way than his way. And I think the coaches who are now doing the air raid better than he did are the ones that are putting a little bit of the run game back in, especially situationally.
Right.
Lincoln Riley probably doing it the best of anybody right now at USC. But you got to run the ball in bad weather. You got to run the ball in short yardage. You got to run the ball in the goal line. And Mike Leach just didn't care. And so I think that's what Zach Arnett, the new coach, wants to do at Mississippi State. The question is, do you have the personnel to switch from that offense, even if it's just gradually? Do you have the personnel to switch to, all right, on 3rd and 2, up by 3 in the fourth quarter, we need a first down. Can we execute when they know we're about to run the football? And I just don't know if they've got those dudes yet. They're probably the most difficult team to pinpoint, honestly, because they have such a star quarterback. I think they've done a lot of really great things, sadly, since his passing.
Yeah.
Zach Arnett's done like everything he kind of needs to do. Like, he's established the coaching staff. He's kept some kids in the portal. He's went and gotten some kids out of the portal. He's kind of done everything he needs to do, but obviously in the face of an incredibly difficult situation. So I would probably pick them 7th in the West. I think Auburn has a chance to jump them.
Yeah.
But again, that could be a 7-5 team. Like 7-5 could be last place in this conference. And that's how good I think this league is in general.
Wow.
I don't Mississippi, like, can you find that balance in 1 year, making that switch? That's a hard thing to do, in my opinion.
I got you. So, and I don't know this. I haven't been paying attention to this, but when Texas and Oklahoma come back in, what are they still going to have the divisions? Because I know that the Big Ten did away with theirs. So,
nope. No more divisions.
Really? Still okay.
Well, it's the best thing to do, though. Go 1 to 16, and top 2 teams go to Atlanta.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. So, can Georgia do it again, or is there too many question marks as a quarterback?
I think they're clearly not as good as last year.
Okay,
but they're also clearly number 1 in America. So it's like it's weird. Like, how many times can they take a slight step back and still clearly be better than everybody else? And that is really a crazy thing to think about, because a three-peat's never really been done in the modern era of college football.
Right.
Not for like 60 years. So I think, like, offensively, they're just going to be different. They won't be as talented starting 11 on defense. You can't put that many guys into the league 2 years in a row and still be like one of the best defenses in the history of the game, the way they were 2 years ago. But they still might be the best defense in the game, like in the country this year. But their offense is going to be better, frankly, around the quarterback. They have way better receivers this year. They got Brock Bowers still. Their offensive line is probably the best in America. Like, if Carson Beck just kind of does his job within the offense, new coordinator Mike Bobo has a ton of experience. If they just kind of do their job and get the ball out, I mean, their schedule sets up to be a double-digit favorite in every game. The question is, does Carson Beck get challenged enough to where in a championship setting against, I don't know, Bama in the SEC title game, or Michigan in a playoff game, or Ohio State or USC, whoever it might be, is he challenged enough in the regular season to actually know how to handle down by 4, 3rd and 7 in the fourth quarter, the way Stetson Bennett could do that last year against Ohio? I mean, he brought him back from against Ohio State. Like, he made the big plays. So, but we knew he had been tested. So the question is, does Carson Beck get tested enough throughout the regular season where they are going to destroy people almost every Saturday, with the possible exception of Tennessee? I don't know where they're going to lose in the regular season. So we may not know how good Georgia is until they get to Atlanta in the playoff, honestly.
Okay, so my last question, because I know Billy's chomping at the bit, and I know we're running up against time, but Florida. Ever since I was a kid, Florida wasn't good when I was a kid. Now, that was a long time ago, but then they became really good. And they've been really good for a while. And one of my best friends played for Florida, Chris Doering. He's one of my greatest buddies of all time. But they just don't seem like they're good anymore. And I know they're SEC. I don't know. Can they get it back? Are they going to get it back? I know they're going to recruit. I know Coach Napier's a really good coach. But how long do you think it'll take them to get back where we're talking about the Florida Gators again?
I mean, that's the question. Chris Doering, by the way, still doing party pumps and bicep curls.
Oh, absolutely. He loves him from Chris now.
He's playing some highlight down there. I've spent way too many nights eating oysters with Chris Doering. I'm sure you have as well. What's funny about Billy Napier is I think he's doing everything the way that it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Like, Florida didn't have the infrastructure around the program the way you have to have in 2023 to be good. They recruited terribly under Dan Mullen, who is a brilliant offensive mind, but not a good recruiter. That they don't have, like, you got to have the NIL stuff. You got to have the graduate assistants. You got to have a scouting department that is largely an NFL-style scouting department that looks at other rosters now, not just recruits.
Yeah.
And that's the way Georgia has built up. That's the way A&M has built up. Texas, Bama, Ohio State. Like, you have to build out an entire organization, and they didn't have any of that when he got there. And I think he's done a great job of putting all that together and putting it in place. Yeah. The question is, like, they approved like a huge budget for him, built the indoor practice facility. They brought on like literally hundreds of people into the personnel department to manage the program, NIL recruiting, portal, etc. But like, how long do they give him to realize the potential of that infrastructure? Yeah. That's the question, because they don't have the guys on defense that Florida normally has. I'm with you. Graham Mertz is fine, but I don't think he's anything special for this offense. The offense wasn't all the problem last year. It was mostly the defense. And I think Napier's a good coach, but he's putting a lot of his tenure on a 28-year-old defensive coordinator. Austin Armstrong's the youngest coordinator in Power 5 football. And while he sounds like Spurrier and walks like Spurrier and talks like Spurrier, he's 28 years old. Like, I'm 40. I got old man strength, like you gotta have some old man strength.
I'm just not used to the Florida teams being like that, and I don't think you are. I don't think anybody is. It's just, and it's amazing that what you brought up with the NIL stuff, it's amazing that you've got to have that now in these Power 5 schools. You've got to have people that's looking at rosters and looking at kids that are going to transfer. And it's amazing that a school like Florida did not have that in place. That's kind of crazy to me.
Well, and sometimes it's just random how it happens at times, right? Like, you had the Urban Meyer phase there, and we all have our own opinions about Urban Meyer. But like, they were so good, but it also was filled with dysfunction that you couldn't see.
Right.
And so none of the guys that they've hired since then were sort of capable of like the holistic big picture view of it all. Like, Jim McElwain wasn't that guy. Will Muschamp wasn't that guy. And Dan Mullen certainly clearly was not that guy. But Napier comes from a different cloth. He comes from a different view of how to build a program. And he did it at Louisiana. He learned under Saban, the way Kirby Smart. He learned under Smart, frankly, as well. And to see how you have to put all this stuff around you to win it's how you have to do it. And hopefully, if I'm a Florida fan, hopefully you give him time. And then
I was about to ask you. Yep.
You start to see some results. The problem is, again, back to my earlier point, the SEC is so good this year. Like, look at their schedule. Like, their schedule is nuts. They got to play Utah on the road. Like, that's a top 10 team.
Yeah.
So if they go 6-6, I will think that's probably a decent season with their roster. And then you need to see recruiting. You got to see top 10 classes. You got to see progress next year, or the natives get restless, and that's life in the SEC. But I do think whoever is the coach, how about this? Whoever is the coach in 2025, two seasons from now, whether it's Billy Napier or somebody else, Florida football will be in far better position to succeed that year than they will have been this year or the year before, if that makes sense. Like, they're just
so he's laid some good groundwork there, obviously.
Yes, he's building the thing you have to win. Whether or not he gets to actually use that thing is a different story.
Gotcha. I appreciate it, man. Billy, come on in.
All right, Braden, prediction time. We got to get to the break real quick. 30-second answers here. Number one, does Tennessee get to 10 wins again this year?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the under on 9.5. So.
Okay. All right. Vandy, does Vandy get to a bowl game?
Ooh. Bowl game? I don't know about a bowl game, but I would hammer the over on 3.5. I would hammer the over.
3.5. Yeah. It was 2.5 last year, which was ridiculous. I mean, they got.
Yeah, I made some money on that. I would. Bowl game seems far fetched, though. I mean, maybe not. It seemed far fetched last year, and they got the job done. So almost got the job done.
Clark put some pressure on himself in year 3. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Braden, thanks for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
enjoy tonight, because I know you're excited, and we're only 5 weeks away from media days here in Nashville.
Oh God, don't remind me. All right, boys.
Thanks, Braden.
See ya.
Braden Gall, owner of 440 Sports, great podcast network here in Nashville. A lot of great work in the Nashville area, of course, with Athlon Sports. Their magazine is out, so go check it out. And my favorite part of those magazines, Kelly, the anonymous coach quotes on each team. I love reading those. But real quick, before we go to the break, we'll preview the College World Series. But first, a few words on the Music City Grand Prix, August 4th through the 6th. You can log on to their website, musiccitygp.com. We got a driver coming on next week. Not sure who, but we will have a driver next week here on the George Plaster Show, so stay tuned for that. Witness a race unlike any other, because that's what this is. Their course will zip through the heart of Music City and be the first professional race to cross a body of water when it passes over the Cumberland River into downtown Nashville. It's a racing spectacle that you won't find anywhere else. The Music City Grand Prix, August 4th through the 6th. Log on to musiccitygp.com. As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Approaching the top of the hour, we are broadcasting live from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. Kelly, let's talk a little college baseball. We got the College World Series starting Friday, rolls on Saturday. Of course, Tennessee and LSU Saturday night. But, David, some of those Friday matchups as well are pretty good. Oral Roberts, the Cinderella team, taking on TCU. But I like that Friday matchup, too.
Really sexy matchup right there between Virginia, a team who's won a national championship before, against Vanderbilt way back in the day. In Florida, a really good Florida team with Wyatt Langford, who's probably going to be a top 5 pick in this summer's MLB draft. So really quality 2 teams right there. Going to be a really good matchup down there in Omaha.
And then Saturday, Wake Forest and Stanford, and then LSU and Tennessee Saturday night, which is going to be an unbelievable atmosphere up there in Omaha. Kelly, can Tennessee win this whole thing? Because to me, if they get by LSU, watch out. Because if you win that first game in Omaha, you put yourself in a great position. You don't have to get out of that first part of the losers bracket. But if you lose the second game, you're in a much better spot than if you lose that first game. A lot of teams that lose that first game, it's tough to bounce back from that because you got to end up beating, of course, that next team twice to advance. So Kelly, they get by LSU. Watch out, because I think this Tennessee pitching staff is arguably the best in that field.
I think you're right. I think that, and I said it yesterday, I think that the last game, obviously Tennessee lost the series down in Baton Rouge. They lost the 2 out of 3, but the last game, they worked LSU. They beat them 14-7. So I think that gives them a little confidence coming into the game.
And in the first game, I think it was 2-2 for a while. I mean, that was a nip and tuck. It wasn't LSU didn't blow them out. Right. That Friday game, I mean, that was tight.
Yeah, so I think that that's probably giving them confidence to say that, hey, we can beat those guys. I really do. You know this, and you guys are baseball guys, but you know this in baseball. Baseball is such a funny sport. It's so fickle because you can beat anybody on any given night. And if you're one of the 8 teams that get there to this College World Series, anybody's got a shot.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like you though. If you do win the first game, that can give you some confidence. But when you lose the first game, you don't see very many teams coming back from that. They normally get beat the next game, and they're out of the whole thing. They get eliminated. So I think you're right. I think their pitching's good enough. Now, is their hitting going to be good enough? They had some timely hitting. Yeah. They had some timely hitting in the super regionals. You know, Tony Basilio talked about it yesterday, but I think they hit like 200, but they had timely hitting. Yeah. And that's what baseball is a lot of times. David knows this. Like, when you get guys in scoring position, when you get runners, you got to get them home, and that's timely hitting, and they've been able to do that. So I think they've got just as good a shot as anybody to win this thing, and I think you're right. I think they do have the arms that are very deep that can get them there. Now, they need some guys like the Dolander guy. He's got to pitch better than he did during the season. Yeah. Pitched really well the other night after he got 4 earned runs on him the other night. So he pitched really well, and that's the kind of guy that everybody was thinking that he was going to be. So if he comes on, Drew Beam pitched really well the other night. Chase Burns is doing a heck of a job closing. So they've got just as good a chance as any, Billy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a weapon to be able to throw out Dolander or Burns at any given time. I mean, You've got those guys sitting right there, either in the dugout or in the bullpen. David and I were talking the other day. If you're Tennessee, do you stick with Lindsey, stick with the rhythm, and then the moment Lindsey gets in any trouble, you got Burns waiting in the bullpen?
He's been your best guy all year outside of maybe Drew Beam. Beam just pitched the last game against Southern Miss. You got to go Lindsey, in my opinion. You know what's going to face you.
Stick with it.
Yeah, you know what's going to face you. It's this guy. It's Paul Skeens is going to take the mound for LSU. He's their dude, and he's their guy. You know that you're going to be able to have to scratch some runs across. It might not come via –
you don't need a whole lot. I mean,
it might not come via the 2-run, 3-run home run, but you got to find a way to put the ball in play and put some pressure on LSU's defense. What impressed me so much about Tennessee's victory in Clemson is in the extra innings portion of that game, they would play small ball. And that's how you win in these types of games where, a 1-out walk, a 2-out walk's a rally. You string some hits together, you put some pressure on the defense, and that's how you make chaos happen, organized chaos. Tennessee's got to play fast.
Yeah, if they can play a little small ball, I think they're in good shape because, again, Kelly, they don't need 5, 6, 7 runs, I don't think, because they've got the pitching in every game. If Tennessee can get 3, 4 runs across each game, they'll be fine because, again, their pitching doesn't give up many runs at all. So
their portion of the bracket, it's murderer's row because you got guys like this and Dylan Cruz who can absolutely rake. He's going to be the first player taken in the draft this year. He's a stud. Brock Wilkin for Wake Forest has hit over 20 home runs this year, and Wake Forest has a Rhett Lauder who's going to be a first-round pick. So
a lot of talent up in Omaha.
A lot of talent in that bracket. So even if Tennessee manages to get by LSU, which is going to be a great game, you might have a Wake Forest or a Stanford team who's very proven and has been there before.
Stanford's been there before. Wake has not. So again, that might be a matchup. Look out for keep out for Stanford in that matchup. I might like Stanford there. But yeah, Wake they play in a smaller field. We'll see how they translate and their offense translates. There's Rhett Lauder. Obviously, they've got the pitching, but we'll see, Kelly. It all starts Friday with Oral Roberts and TCU, and then Florida and Virginia. And then you got Wake Forest and Stanford, LSU and Tennessee Saturday night. So buckle up for that. That will get some ratings, I think. LSU, Tennessee on a Saturday night in Omaha. Coming up, though, stat of the day. We'll see you. And Kelly, I don't know it. I did not look at it.
Okay, good. You can help me.
I'm with you. We're in it together. Stat of the day coming up here on the George Plaster Show.
Good.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
This is my buddy and former Nashville Sounds PA announcer Eric Berner. I always laughed in the old days at Greer Stadium when I would walk in, Eric would immediately play my favorite song, Van Halen's Jump. But then I learned he actually has a real job with Rockcastle Wealth Advisors.
Yeah, George, that's what I do. I help people in the pursuit of making their money live as long as they do. Everybody's situation is different, so I use a customized and individualized, personalized approach to the person I'm working with. Old 401ks, retirement planning, insurance planning, inheritance planning. Those are things that people like to get some more information about.
One of the things I find is people don't even know where to start, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, so I can usually help people with an initial phone call or meeting that is a no charge and no obligation.
And I'll bet you have a phone number and a website.
I do, George. They can call me at 615-235-1058 or rockcastlewealth.com or Eric at rockcastlewealth.com.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports. And then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general. Baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised, and of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Welcome back in. It is time for Kelly Holcomb's favorite segment of the show. It is time for Saturday, presented to you by the good folks at John English Antique Sports and Cars, located in Shelbyville, Tennessee. 204 East Depot Street is where you can find them. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So give us a call at 931-492-4304. Now, Billy has been harping on me about getting a Saturday question related to Kelly. So since George is not here, I felt like it was the perfect time to do this. So Here we go.
Look at him.
Former NFL quarterback Kelly Holcomb spent 4 years of his NFL career as a quarterback on the Cleveland Browns. Kelly threw for 3,438 yards and 26 TDs with the Brownies. Can you name the Cleveland Browns' all-time leading receiver in franchise history?
Did he play with Kelly?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is this before Kelly's time?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's back when they were winning championships, I would assume.
I would guess so. Yeah.
This guy is well known in NFL circles. I'll put it like that. If you want another hand, that might give it away. But
I'm guessing he's a wide receiver, right? He's not a running back.
No, he's not a running back.
Okay. I mean,
I don't know if he would be a receiver either, though.
Well, David said he's a wide receiver.
I just said he wasn't a running back.
Okay. So this could be a tight end.
A running back probably would never lead a franchise, and
you never know.
For receiving, yeah.
I was just making sure. So it could either tight end or receiver.
It was receiving yardage.
I've got a good guess, I think.
Hit me with it.
Was he has it been a GM in his career?
He has.
Ozzie Newsome.
It is Kelly's money. It is Ozzie Newsome.
Yeah.
980 yards.
Man, that's a lot.
Big
of
number
yards.
82.
Whew.
He was a good player, man. Good player. Alabama. Bear Bryant guy.
Came out of Alabama.
Yeah.
And he was a receiver, not a tight end.
And yeah. He was a tight end.
He was a tight end.
He was a tight end.
I just said leading receiver. I didn't want to sway one way or another.
He was trying to fool us, which I found that out real quick.
Well, look, let's just put it the way it is. Kelly's been money lately. I feel like stat of the day should genuinely look forward to it. He's been kicking George's butt at it.
This wasn't easy. I mean, you had to put a little bit of thought into that one. I mean, it wasn't.
Well, you're in my wheelhouse, though, when you're talking about stuff like that. I mean, I can.
I mean, he couldn't.
I knew right off the bat that I thought when you said that, when you said leading receiver, and then you said it's not a running back, but you didn't say receiver. I was like, yeah, that was the first name I thought of, Ozzie Newsome.
So he was a GM at one point
with the Ravens.
For the Baltimore Ravens. He built the Baltimore Ravens, which was they've been really good for many years.
Kelly,
that's a good football mind right there.
Yeah, Kelly couldn't miss the question that was originated after him with his picture up there. I mean, look at this guy. I'm going to put the picture back up there.
If he missed that one.
Look at this stud right there, number 10.
What am I doing tucking the football? Like, what am I doing right there?
You running the football, Kelly?
Billy always asks, why was Kelly's jersey so dirty?
Hey, you should if you turn that jersey around right there, you could not see the number.
Really?
Because it was
because that day that was the Pittsburgh Steelers game in the playoffs where I got hit one time. I forget who hit me, but I went down in the ground. It was kind of snowy, rainy that day, and the whole back of my jersey you couldn't see the number 10.
Those are the best when it's snowy, rainy, wet, it's muddy everywhere.
Yeah, it's best for you to watching it. It's not best playing it.
How old were we? Like
grow up.
We were 4 years old when that game happened. What year was that, Kelly?
2002.
We were 3.
We were 3.
Yeah.
We couldn't even walk.
You could walk, hopefully.
We were early walkers. All right. So stat of the day, Kelly's rolling. We gotta keep Kelly hot.
How does Watson do on the stat of the days?
You would know more than I would.
Not great, honestly. I mean,
when was the last time George got one?
I think it's been a while. For George is kind of slacking.
He's gonna say he got Antoine Randall, but Kelly said Hines Ward, and Hines Ward was the one who caught it.
George and Watson do a good job kind of bickering back and forth, kind of throwing
figuring it out. Yeah, figuring it out.
Yeah. But I mean, I thought y'all had good teamwork. Yes. Was it 2 days ago with Randall? I mean, that was
good. I don't know why I thought I remember Hines Ward being part of it. I don't know why I thought that he threw it though.
Yeah. Are you starting to cater to Kelly now with these stat of the day?
No, he's gonna start making me mad because he gets them right, so I'll have to make them harder on him.
He's turning into Danny.
Yeah.
Don't pick that trash. Don't pick that trash you give Danny Evans, dude. That's awful.
He gets it right for some reason. Like I literally dig into the playbook, and he just
somehow
whips my
Danny
butt.
Gets it every time. All right, we got Kelly's World of Football to get into right now. David, hit it.
It's a moment you have breathlessly awaited. It's time for Kelly Holcomb's World of Football. As shocking as this may sound, Kelly Holcomb's World of Football has sponsors. It's brought to you in part by Baird Financial with Yaz Hassan and Justin Oldham, and by State Farm Insurance, located in Murfreesboro through agent Celeste Middleton.
All right, Kelly's World of Football. It's time to talk about the NFL teams that haven't won a Super Bowl. And again, we're not ranking these. We're going to ask Kelly to run through the NFL teams that have not won a Super Bowl and just talk about them.
Did y'all realize that out of the 57 Super Bowls, there's been like 40% of the teams haven't won them? It's right at 40% of the franchises have not won those.
It's crazy. I mean, because the teams that have typically won multiple and maybe even several, so you get like the Steelers, Broncos,
Packers have been in so many.
Yeah. I mean, or they've been in them, they may not have won a bunch, but they've been in them. And there's 4 teams, Kelly, that haven't ever been in one. The Browns are one of them. So I think you wanted to talk a little bit about that a little bit later too, but let's start. And I got the pictures. I'll say the team, and I know no particular order, but we're going to start with the Titans.
Yeah, and I'm going to get death threats over this picture, but it's going to cause a lot of heartbreak.
That's the first team. The Titans have not won a Super Bowl. Kelly, what do you have on the Titans? How close could they be?
I'm not sure really how close they are, Billy. If you look at the NFL Network stuff, and they did something like weeks ago on this, but they've got them at the lower tier of winning the Super Bowl on the cusp. They don't have them on the cusp. They're at the bottom level. So I think they've got work, and we've talked about it extensively on this program. They've got work to do. They drafted every guy on the offense this year. It's kind of painstaking when you look at the stats. Ryan Tannehill had an okay year, but we all know that he got hurt. But you have no guy on their roster that was even close to getting 1,000 yards. Like Treylon Burks I think he had 444 yards receiving last year. So that's kind of an uphill climb for those guys, especially when you've got the guy, Derrick Henry, he's not getting any younger. And y'all know this. It's kind of crazy to see an Emmitt Smith type career or Walter Payton type career with a running back. You saw it with Chris Johnson, who had that 1 year where he went over 2,000 yards, and then you never really heard from him again. They paid him all that money, and it's just so hard as a running back to stay healthy in that league and to get pounded like they do each and every game and to stay in there. So I don't know how much longer Derrick Henry's got, but people know that he's kind of he's the machine of that offense, and if you stop him, you've got a good chance of winning the game. That's why they use a lot of play actions and stuff with Ryan Tannehill. But you look at them on defense, and I was looking at their defensive statistics last year. And I guess this is right, but when you've got Kevin Byard, who's leading the team in tackles, and he's a safety,
not good.
That's not good. And I don't know if that was right, because I don't know if that was correct, but that's the one that I looked at. Now, I know that he led the team in interceptions, and when he was at Middle and I was doing the radio for Middle, the guy is one of those guys that's always around the ball. He's always been that way. He's been that way in the National Football League. But if those stats are correct, and he was a leading tackler on the team, that's not good when you've got a safety that is leading your team in tackles. So they've got a long way to go, and I don't know if they're close, Billy. I really don't.
Yeah, and they've got to figure out the quarterback position. Again, Ryan Tannehill, I think, got just about as close as you can to a Super Bowl that year when they ended up losing, of course, to the Chiefs. I don't know if you can do much better than that if you're Ryan Tannehill and the Titans. Now, of course, looking forward to Will Levis. We will see, but we got a lot more teams to get to. David, who we got next?
We got the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think a lot of people say they're close.
Yeah, I think they're pretty close, Kelly.
Yeah, they're really close. They've been to the Super Bowl 3 times, obviously back in the day with Sam White and all those guys, and then Joe Burrow carried them a couple of years ago. But they're really close. They've got all the makings. They've got the 2 pass rushers on the edge. They've got a really good defense. They've got a good defensive coordinator who's not scared to mix it up. Obviously, you got one of the better quarterbacks in the league in Joe Burrow, who can throw it to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins out there on the edge. So then you can turn around and hand it to a Joe Mixon in the backfield. They've got to do something offensive line wise. He's done remarkably well with not having the greatest offensive line. But that goes back to Joe Burrow knowing the game of football and understanding defenses and knowing where he needs to throw the ball and getting rid of it instead of holding on to it. And he can make things happen with his feet. I was just watching before we came on air the Alabama LSU game where he went down to Alabama and Tuscaloosa and beat those guys, and he had a couple of key runs in that game. So he's a talented guy. He's got some talented guys around him. So I think they'll be back. I really do.
Joe Cool, they call him. That's not a bad quarterback to have if you want to win a Super Bowl. All right, the Brownies are up next, Kelly and David.
Another photo. I'm gonna get death threats over in Cleveland.
We're just terrible.
We're just terrible. Pathetic organization. It's amazing that.
But they're not anymore. I mean,
I think they've got some really good players.
Yeah.
I really do. And somebody had them, almost put them in their top 10 of the most well-rounded out roster. So they're coming along. They've got Deshaun Watson. He's got to play good. When you can turn around and hand it to Nick Chubb. I never thought watching him and Sony Michel at Georgia that he would be better at the NFL level than Sony Michel was, because I thought Sony Michel could do more things, but Nick Chubb has been the catalyst for those guys. You got Garrett Miles, who can still rush the passer. I think he had 15 and a half or 16 sacks last year. He can still do it. They're getting better on the defensive side of the ball. I think they are on the cusp as well. It kind of depends on whether Deshaun Watson plays well. If he doesn't play well, that's with any team in the league. If you don't have a quarterback that's not playing well, you're not going to make the big games. And if he plays well, kind of like he did when he was in Houston, if he would have had a better surrounding cast, he probably could have done better. But I think they're right on the cusp myself of getting past that, getting into the playoffs and doing some damage in the playoffs.
Next team here, I think, is right on the cusp as well. I think you would agree, Kelly, and it's another team with another fan base that has paper bags on their heads. But they're not that franchise anymore, and the Lions have probably gotten closer to a Super Bowl quicker than the Browns have. I mean, what Dan Campbell has done and will continue to do there, I think, is incredible.
It really is incredible, and I think they became kind of a media darling last year with them being on Hard Knocks, and I kind of got used to them, and I started pulling for them. They won 8 of the last 10 games. They were right there at the end. If they won the last game, they would have made the playoffs. I think they might have had to have some help, but they didn't win that game. Or did they win the game? I don't remember, but I think they had to have some help.
The Packers, but it didn't matter.
They beat
it didn't matter at that point. So
yeah,
they've got some guys. They've got Aiden Hutchinson that they drafted. He can get pressure on the quarterback. They do a really good job defensively. With Aaron Glenn as their defensive coordinator, I played against him when he was with the Jets, and then Jared Goff has kind of resurged his career. They let him go with the Rams, and the Rams go on to win a Super Bowl. But it seems like this team kind of fits him more. So I think they're right on the cusp too. They got a really good running back in Jamal Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, which really good receiver. So I think they're right on the cusp too. So I'm pulling for them. They're one of those 4 teams that have never been to a Super Bowl. It's amazing that the Browns have never been to a Super Bowl after all the championships that they had back in the day with Paul Brown, but the Detroit Lions fall in the same category.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kelly. Hard Knocks, that got me kind of invested into the Lions.
It really did.
I liked, who was it? The older player that got into the team one practice, and he was screaming at everybody. It's not Darrell Williams. What's the running back?
Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams.
Yeah.
There was a shot of him just getting into the faces of every Lions player, and that was cool. That was cool. I think
I
they
remember
make
that.
the
He
playoffs.
said, when I think about when I'm tired during training camp, I think about that record that we had last year.
Yeah.
That's not who we are. We're better than that.
Yeah.
And, it was just really emotional moment.
It's guys like that have really helped change the Lions culture. Dan Campbell, too. So, obviously, that'll be a fun team to keep track of. Up next, the Texans with a young quarterback in C.J. Stroud. Kelly, I'll go here with this Texans team. Where are they with the Titans? How far behind? I mean, because with C.J. Stroud, if he starts to play a little bit better, than what they've had at quarterback, I don't know that the Texans are all that far off than we might realize.
I'm with you. I don't know that division. We just don't know how that division, the AFC South, is going to go. We really don't. They've got all these young new guys that are that are quarterbacks, and C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson. That's going to the Colts, and then Ryan Tannehill's kind of the older guy. So I really don't know how the Texans are obviously a long ways off. They've got a new coach. So he's got to play good, but he's not going to play good as a rookie. That's just part of it. Defensively, they got the guy they wanted from Alabama in the draft last year who can rush the passer. So I think they're building some things, and I think they had a really good draft. I really do. I think they're doing it the right way, but I don't know if they're close yet. But, they're one of those 4 teams that have never been to the Super Bowl, but they're an expansion franchise. So it's not like the Browns or the Lions that have been there forever. It's kind of like Jacksonville. Jacksonville kind of came on the scene last year, but it's really going to see how C.J. Stroud plays. If he plays good, then they've got a shot, and he can be the franchise quarterback for a long time, and then they can start building around him. But next year will be tough for those guys. I really believe that.
We're going to get to one more and then go to the break. Kelly, this team right here, led by Kyler Murray, has had some turmoil these last couple years. They might be in some trouble if they don't find a way to figure it out with Kyler and sort of get their act together, because Cliff Kingsbury didn't really work out.
No, he did not. And he was big on, he didn't draft him, but he was recruiting Kyler Murray when he was at Texas Tech, and he wanted to be part of that. And, last year when they started yelling at each other on the sideline, you can tell that there's some dysfunction going on there. The Cardinals have at least been to the Super Bowl. That's more than I can say about my Brownies. But Kyler Murray's got to stay healthy. They just lost DeAndre Hopkins. They let him go. So it's going to be a while for them as well. They've got some guys on defense that can play, and they kind of kept that thing together last year. But I don't think they're close anywhere anytime soon. I think Kyler Murray's got to play better, and he's got to stay healthy.
How many teams got left, David?
Probably a bunch.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
6 teams left. So perfect.
Six teams left. We'll kind of split it half and half. We'll have the next half of Kelly's NFL teams that have not won a Super Bowl coming up here on the George Plaster Show.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Links. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between. Discover what Hit City has to offer. Single game tickets are on sale now.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
All right, Kelly, this next team we're going to get into, I was looking at the picture that David's about to pull up here. I can't believe the Bills have never won a Super Bowl. I mean, you look back at some of the players they've had, some of the quarterbacks they've had. I mean, you hate it for Kelly that he never got a Super Bowl, Tim Kelly. But Josh Allen, I think on the horizon, next 5 years, they might be a good bet to place to maybe win a Super Bowl here soon.
Yeah, they've been to 4. The NFC East wore them out when they went to those 4 Super Bowls, 4 straight. I think it was 4 straight Super Bowls, was it not? Yeah. So
wow,
it was pretty shocking that they couldn't get over it. But I think Josh Allen, he's got to learn how to play the game of not
under
going
pressure,
downfield, not taking everything downfield. You can take things underneath. He's got to preserve his body. If he stays healthy, I think he'll win one. I really do. But they've got some things going on, obviously, up there with Stefan Diggs. The coach came out yesterday. We've already talked about it in length about that. But I didn't realize this, guys, that 17 of their players are over the age of 30. So they're pretty old. They've kind of mixed those old guys in with some of the younger guys. And I think they can. I think they're on the cusp of doing it. They just got to go do it. And they've got to play better than they did in that game against Cincinnati, where they had everything in their favor. They had the home field advantage. It was snowing up there, and they just could not get it done. So the year before with Kansas City, they had the game won and then couldn't finish it at the end. So Von Miller, they signed Leonard Floyd. Von Miller's coming back from his ACL. They can rush the passer. They've got some the Poyer guy in the secondary. They've got a complete team. They've just got to do it. They've just got to go out on the field and win games.
Yeah, I like what you said about Josh Allen. I mean, if he learns how to maybe make some of those check down throws and just move the ball, move the chains, can you see why he wants to go for that deep ball? I mean, he's still a young guy. What would you tell him, Kelly, if you were the quarterback coach there? Is it as simple as, hey, settle down, the check down's open? I mean, what all would go into your conversation?
Just make the defense work. He got into a situation, and I always bring up the Cincinnati game last year where they lost in the playoffs. They got down by 2 touchdowns, and then he started trying to force stuff, it felt like to me. He started trying to force the ball downfield to try to catch up on one play, and you can't do that. You're down 14. Just take what the defense gives you. You've got to learn, and that comes with age too. He's a young guy. He's very talented. He can do things with his legs, which that's what scares me. The more you do with your legs, the more the percentage goes up of you getting hurt. And that's a franchise that cannot lose him. All these franchises can't lose these guys, but Josh Allen is a very integral part of that football team, and he can't get hurt. So he's got to preserve his body, but he's got to learn how to play, make the defense work the whole field. Just dump balls off to backs because, they can just drop back, and then you got guys open underneath, but they know he's going to throw the ball downfield. So he's got to work on that. I'm sure they are.
Well, and I think a quarterback that has done a great job of that, even though he's still so young, is Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he has made the defense work. I know they obviously came back and ended up beating the Chargers there at home, beat the Titans late in the regular season last year to win the division. I mean, what a year last year, Kelly. And so for him in that division, again, similar to Tennessee, similar to Houston and Indianapolis as well, which I don't think the Colts are on this list, right? But with the Jags, how close are they? I mean, they seem to have those pieces in place.
Well, they're trending upward. There's no question about that. And they made the first step by getting into the playoffs last year. They were down big to the Titans and then started, getting that gap closer and closer and closer and closer. So they just got to do it another year. Trevor Lawrence I think the best thing that ever happened to Trevor Lawrence was Doug Peterson. Obviously, a new coach coming in. He's a former quarterback. He called the plays, kind of settled him down and made him, hey, this is how you play the position. There's going to be ups and downs in this league, but you got to stay kind of consistent. And I think he made some huge strides last year. They were in the game against Kansas City last year, but the first playoff game against the Chargers, which that's a team that we're going to talk about here in a sec. But I didn't when he threw 4 picks in the first half, they were down. It just didn't feel like the Chargers had finished them. And it just so happened that they come back in the second half and he throws 4 touchdowns. So he's got the middle game going. Doug Peterson has obviously helped him. Now he's just got to do it another year.
You just mentioned yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, Kelly, you just mentioned that comeback by the Jags, another team that almost had a Super Bowl.
Yeah, real quick on Trevor Lawrence, you have to think, he's going into his 3rd year as NFL quarterback. In my opinion, it's really his 2nd year because you just take that Urban Meyer year, his rookie year, you just throw it in the trash can. So I would say this, though, and this might make some waves within Titans country. It's his division for the next 10 years if he wants it.
Yeah.
He could dominate the division, kind of like what Andrew Luck did in Indianapolis. Obviously retired early, but Trevor Lawrence is that type of talent and that type of guy for Jacksonville.
And if you're the Titans fan, that's kind of speeds up the process for Will Levis a little bit. Maybe, you got CJ Stroud in that division too. All of a sudden, the AFC South is saying, hey, this division's up for the taking. Let's find our quarterback. Right. I think the Titans were doing that too with Will Levis, just like the Texans did with Stroud. So obviously, we'll see what happens with Lawrence. Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons came, I don't know if you'd say close, but they were close to winning the Super Bowl. They should have won the Super Bowl 28-3. They will never forget it as long as a Falcons fan lives. Brutal. And it doesn't look like they're very close anytime soon. I like what Arthur Smith is doing, Kelly. They've got some weapons around Desmond Ridder, who will most likely be their quarterback next year. How close are they, Kelly? I don't think the defense is quite there yet, but that offense is getting better.
It is getting better, and you're absolutely right. They should have won that Super Bowl. We were talking about it before the broadcast. There was a big deal where he took a sack, and I think it took them out of field goal range. If they kick a field goal, the game's probably over, and they weren't able to do that. And it kept the New England Patriots alive. And when you kept the New England Patriots alive when they were back in their heyday, they're more than likely going to win the game. But I'm not sure that the Atlanta Falcons are there yet. They got some young guys. Desmond Ridder is the big question mark. They weren't going to play him last year, but they ended up playing him at the end of the season. He played pretty well. I think Bijan Robinson was a huge get for them in the draft. He can do more than just run the ball. He can be the 3rd down back as well. They got the tight end from Florida, Kyle Pitts, and then they got Drake London. So they've got some guys offensively that can do it. I just don't think I don't think they're there. And the big question mark is Desmond Ridder. Can he do it? He's got to do it for a whole year. He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to put the offense in the right plays and make the right decisions. So we'll just have to see, but I don't think they're anywhere close right now.
Next team, Carolina Panthers. They lost to Peyton Manning and the Broncos in that Super Bowl out in San Francisco, as you see here in that nice brand new stadium. How long ago was that?
It's been a while now.
8 years, 9 years ago.
Man, that's crazy.
Crazy.
And they were, that was a knockdown drag out, Kelly. Panthers were close. I think the Broncos defense ended up winning that. No offense to
Von Miller MVP year.
Yeah. No offense to Peyton Manning, but that was his last year in the NFL, I'm pretty sure. So the Panthers, though, obviously they were close that year. What do you think about them right now? What's going on? I feel like there's a lot of unknowns. Matt Rule's out of there. PJ Walker, a guy
Bryce Young.
Yeah, Bryce Young will be the quarterback. But what can he do this year? How close are they?
I just don't know. I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I don't think they've got a new coaching staff. Frank Reich has got to put his discipline, his organizational stuff to get those guys to buy in. They let Christian McCaffrey go, which was, I'm sure they did that so they could get some more picks in the draft and all that. But he was kind of a dynamic guy that you see now taking that on to San Francisco. Bryce Young, who's a really talented kid. We've talked about him so much before the draft, but he is a rookie. And when you're a rookie in that league, I don't care how good you are. There's not many Miami Dolphins when Dan Marino took those guys in his first year. So he's going to struggle. They're going to struggle. They're not close yet. I don't know defensively. I'm not sure what they've got, but when you're starting a young quarterback, it's going to take a couple of years for you to get over that hump. And I think he is the right guy. Whether he can stay healthy, I don't know. I get tired of people talking about his size, but he seems like one of those guys when he was at Alabama, he played in the best conference in the country, and he's one of those guys that don't take on big hits, and I'm sure that's going to – he just feels things, and I'm sure that's going to carry over to the NFL. But can he stay healthy? And if he does, then there'll be something in years to come, but it's not going to be anytime soon.
He's a winner. I mean, you gotta take that into account. I got sick. I mean, from the beginning, you had people talking about how small he was. I'm not in that realm. I mean, I don't think that he's that good a talent as we've seen, I think, in the draft in a long time. So we'll see what happens with the Panthers. Up next, Minnesota Vikings. They have never won a Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins still going at it.
They've been to 4 as well.
Yeah, they've been to them, but they've never pulled through. What's the breakdown here?
Well, Kirk Cousins is kind of running out of time. They just let Dalvin Cook go. They let Adam Thielen go as well. So he's got an unbelievable wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. The division has gotten softer since Aaron Rodgers has left. So you never know how Jordan Love is going to do it at Green Bay. Don't know about Chicago, but I think you look at it, since Aaron Rodgers has left, it's kind of the Aaron Rodgers effect. That division is there for the taking now. I think it's between the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings won it last year. But with that being said, Kirk Cousins, I've always liked Kirk Cousins. He's had to battle his whole career. Everybody's always talked about him. Can he get further into the playoffs? If he can, might have a chance. I just don't know if they can. Like I said, I've always liked him. I think he's a really good quarterback, but he's just never been able to get past that first playoff game. And until that happens, I don't think they're close.
You mentioned really good quarterback. Another really good quarterback is Justin Herbert with the Chargers. Chargers have never won a Super Bowl, which is another team that's interesting to me. Of course, they were in San Diego. They've had some good quarterbacks. Phillip Rivers never won a Super Bowl. So they're another franchise, Kelly, that you look at and you say, man, how have they never won a Super Bowl? But they've got the quarterback in place. And just like a lot of other teams, that's a positive. You've got that box checked, and they can easily check that off here with Herbert down the road.
Yeah, he's an unbelievably talented guy, 6'6". He's a huge kid. They've got their franchise quarterback. They kind of did what Joe Burrow did, what they did to Joe Burrow, but I'm sure they're in contract discussions now, but they kind of kicked his down the road for next year. Austin Eckler, they gave him a 1-year contract, I think. Keenan Allen outside. They've got pieces, but the big piece, they've got him. They've got Khalil Mack and Derwin James, obviously, on defense. And the head coach is the defensive coordinator, but it doesn't sit well when you're beating the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville, and you're beating them really bad. They've given up 4 turnovers in the first half, and you can't finish the game. So it's going to be huge for Brandon Staley this year. If he doesn't get it done, he's probably going to be gone. But they've got their quarterback for many years to come because he's an ultra-talented guy. He's a tough guy. You saw where he broke his ribs, and I don't think he missed a game. I don't think he missed a play. It was kind of crazy because you could tell he was in excruciating pain. So that's the guy that you want as your leader of the team. He's kind of a quiet, humble guy, but if they keep him and they get him under contract and they can keep him healthy, I think that he's got a shot to get one as well.
So there it is. That's it. Kelly's World of Football, the NFL teams that haven't won a Super Bowl. And Kelly, there's 4 teams that haven't ever made it. And
which is ridiculous that the Cleveland Browns have never been there. It's absolutely ridiculous that I played with those guys, and they had such a winning tradition back in the day with all those guys, with Otto Graham, with Lou Groza, with Marion Motley and Jim Brown and Paul Warfield and Dante Lavelli. It's just you can't believe that the Cleveland Browns have never been to a Super Bowl. It kind of disgusts me a little bit. I don't know, but I think they could. I think if Deshaun Watson plays well, I think they got a shot.
I mean, and look at the Titans. I mean, that franchise started in '99, and they I know it's only been one, but at least they've been to one.
They've made it.
Yeah,
they've made it.
You can say you've been there, and that's a big deal to say you've been to a Super Bowl for the Browns. That fan base deserves better. That they deserve a Super Bowl, and you know that fan base and everybody up there as well as anybody. But Kel, that might have been my favorite World of Football. I mean, I thought that was cool. That was one of the. I know that it's the off season, but
riveting.
Yeah, there's.
It's riveting, and George did this to me because he knew it was going to be a slow time in football, and he put this on my back, and now I'm trying to scramble to get some things.
Carries
It's hard for 20 minutes to talk about something that's not in season.
Yeah, we need to make it Kelly's World of Baseball maybe next week and change it up a little bit. But that's it for another episode of Kelly's World of Football. Coming up, though, one more segment, Bet of the Day. Billy's Bet of the Day here. And we'll recap how I did last night, even though it's still George's Bet of the Day, so it goes into George's stats. Coming up, another segment of Bet of the Day. Stay tuned. Final segment here on the George Plaster Show.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com. You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to AlacoFineWoodFloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Welcome back in. Final segment on a Wednesday. Billy's Bet of the Day presented to you by the good folks at Bart Durham Injury Law Firm. They are, simply put, the best in the business. They are lawyers you can trust. So give them a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to bartdurham.com. And for Billy last night, he picked up a W for a good old Plas.
I was a little nervous about that. I was thinking the Panthers might kind of battle and hang in there and maybe force a game 6, but 9 goals. Boy, good thing I picked Vegas. George's going to be happy about that one.
Well, you've got him 3 games over 500, so that's nice.
Yeah. I've gotten George 1 win. We'll see if I can do it again tonight. I'm going Detroit.
Yeah, George won't want this win.
Against the Braves.
He'll want the Braves to win.
But here's why it's going to happen. First pitch is at 5 o'clock now. I think it is. I think it got pushed back.
Game
again.
1 ran late.
Yeah, game 1 ran late, so they're going to, clear the field and stuff and get that started at 5 o'clock. Game 2 of the doubleheader today. Young guy, Dylan Dodd on the mound for the Braves at 5 o'clock. I like the Tigers' experience with Cabrera and some of the other bats.
He had a homer today, hit a ground rule
Cabrera
double. He was
went
raking
yard
today.
Yeah, so I like the Tigers over the Braves. Braves just beat the Tigers, so I'm taking Detroit plus 124. I don't like that matchup against the young Dodd for the Braves. So that's where I'm going tonight, Kelly. What do you think?
Kelly, you got something to put on that one?
Yeah, I don't have any input. I just know that I was thinking like how awful it would be to have to play a doubleheader.
On getaway day.
On getaway day.
Yeah.
That would be like that would be the worst in baseball. I don't know, David, you played baseball. I don't know if you had any doubleheaders, but like
David,
that would be
many times. As a hitter, you like them because you'll be able to get in the routine. I've seen
as a pitcher, it's awful.
I've had 4 or 5 ABs in game 1. Game 2, I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But they call this one the first pitch swing days. A lot of first pitch outs.
Well, and for the Braves, they're on the road.
Yeah, they're ready to get home.
It's not like they're at home. So, you can't. Usually you're at home. You get home to your kids, right? But doubleheader, you can't even. You're in Detroit. So have fun in Detroit after today. But there's where I'm going tonight, and that'll wrap us up. Ending a little bit early. I'm getting better with the time, Kelly. I remember that first show was over 2 hours, but I think I'm getting the time constraints a little bit better.
You're getting better with the time. You are getting better with the time.
That was the biggest challenge. David, thanks for producing again today, carrying the load. Kelly, thanks for coming on. We'll see y'all tomorrow with another big show from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. Stick with us.